Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Torah Study with Rabbi P. That's me. I'm Rabbi P. This is my trusted friends who have come. Give them a nice hello. Hello. There you go. Okay, fine. As we met last week, the Jewish people have gotten out of the land of Egypt. It took a while. Moses had to pull a few strings, but they're out. They got through the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, whatever you like to call it. And now they're on a mission to receive the Torah from the Almighty. So God sends Moses on a mission, and he says, I want you to go to the people, and I want you to tell them a little bit about what we're going to be discussing, and see if they're going to be okay with it. Moses goes to them, and they Jewish people say, Nase v'nishma, Nase, we will do, v'nishma, and we will listen, no matter what Hashem throws at us, no matter what the circumstances are, we're good to go. And I want you to just pay attention to how they answer this. Nase v'nishma. Nase v'nishma. First of all, we will do, and then we will listen, which is completely counterintuitive. What do you first say? Listen. Tell us what it's about. I mean, let's hear a few of the rules and regulations you have. But no, the Jewish people said, we're going to be completely subordinate. We are going to be loyal. We're going to be good people. Doesn't matter what. Nase, we will do, but then also comes the nishma part. We will try to understand as much as possible why we are doing it. So this gave us a great charge early on in our relationship with the Almighty as a nation. It gave us a tremendous charge because God was so astounded by their response. How in the world would they say something like that? That no matter what I say to them, if I tell them to go chopping wood, if I tell them to go draw water, anything, they say, no problem, we're good to go. Once God got that signal, he said, okay, this is what I want you to do. We're going to do it around the mountain, Mount Sinai. And why did he pick Mount Sinai? Because Mount Sinai was not the tallest, it was not the widest, it was the most humble. Okay, it was the most humble mountain. So God said, that's the kind of mountain I want, to show that no matter what station in life we reach, we shall always remember to be humble. For some, it's easier than others. Some people have a tough time being humble, but this is what God expects us to do. Okay. So now they're surrounding the mountain, and then all of a sudden it starts to thunder and it starts to lightning, and there's thick smoke, and there's a fire on the mountain, and boom! I mean, you can imagine the people's reaction to this. This is the 6th day of the month of Sivan. They're surrounding the mountain, and God makes an appearance. He's never going to do this again. It's one time in history that he reveals himself to the people as such. He makes this tremendous revelation, and he begins to speak. Now, we have to kind of try to figure out exactly what that means, he begins to speak. Because we know that, and our great dear friend, what's his name? Thank you. Maimonides clearly writes in the Guide for the Perplexed that God doesn't speak. He doesn't have any human functions. He's the Almighty. So what it means he speaks. So I'm assuming that they heard a voice, and then the voice was either, must have been in Hebrew, because what other language would they speak, although they came from Egypt. But let's just for a second put that aside. He spoke in Hebrew, and for most commentators in the Torah, what happened was at that time that God gave the first 2 commandments to the Jewish people, personally. The other 8 is when they freaked out and they said to Moses, no. You talk to us, it's too much of a revelation. So you go and get it from God, and then you'll transmit it to us. And that's where it's not unanimous. This is not a unanimous consensus, but many people believe that. Many of the great scholars believe that it was just the first 2 commandments they heard directly from God, and even some want to say that it was within the first 2 commandments that he was able to say all 10. Meaning from the 2, all 10 came out, something like that, which is impossible for a human being to do, and that's what it was. Okay, let's discuss these 10. Number 1, the main question that people have asked for centuries is this. We pretty much know what the 10 commandments are, it's no secret. Number 1 is, I am your God, which we'll get to in a minute. if that's a commandment or just a statement. Number 2 is you should have no other gods before me. What does that mean? I mean, if you have number 1, why do you need number 2? Because, Jews like to analyze, and what do you mean, I'm your God? Okay, fine, you could be my God, but there is this concept of monolatry. Monolatry stands in the middle between paganism and monotheism. So paganism is you believe in a multiple of gods. This is the God for the football season, this is the God for the baseball season, the hockey season, you have all different types of gods. Okay? That's one, that's a pagan. Number 2, on the other end of the extreme, is monotheism, which means one and only one. Very exclusive. There's no other gods besides this God. Now, in today's day and age, it's very easy to understand that because half of the world believes that there is one God and that's it. There's no other gods. But in the middle, there's this idea called monolatry. And monolatry is probably what the Jews were for a while. What do I mean by that? The Jews lived in Egypt, and they were involved in the Egyptian culture. I mean, they weren't separate from the Egyptians. They were involved in the Egyptian culture, and it's claimed that many of them already had sunk low to be assimilated in the Egyptian culture. Now, the Egyptians by nature were pagans. They had a multiple of gods, this and that and that and this and this and that and that and this. Okay, Jews come out and they profess to be monotheistic, because that's what Judaism is demanding. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm God, your God. So the Jews had this idea, what we call monolatry, that God, our God, let's call him Hashem. Hashem is our God. But the Egyptian gods also have validity, not for us. I would never pray to Orion, I would never pray to Ra, I would never pray to any of the Egyptian gods, because they do nothing for me. But if the Egyptians want to pray for them, so be it. Fine. They also have validity. Sorry. God says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God. I am exclusive. I don't want any partnerships. Like today, you know what? It's illegal to have a monopoly in America. Okay? If you have a monopoly, immediately the government comes in. It was, if you remember, I'm a little older than most of you here, but you know what? When I was a kid, if you wanted to order a phone, it came from where? One place. And if you wanted to make a phone number, where did it come? One place. If you wanted to hook up your phone, came from the same company. You want to make a long distance call, same company. Everything was the same company. It was called American Telephone and Telegram, AT&T. You got all of your services from this one company. The government didn't like it. Why? Government didn't like it, so it took AT&T and smashed it into what we were then known as the baby bells. It made it all over the country, open season, because a government doesn't like monopolies, and that's it. God does like monopolies when it comes to him. Doesn't like when it comes to you, but when it comes to him, he loves monopolies. He does not want to have any competition whatsoever. So even if you say, well, what are you worried? I mean, you're the God of America, Canada, North America, Europe. So there's somewhere called Cambodia. They don't, no. I'm the God of Cambodia too. I'm the God of Vietnam. I'm the God of everywhere. And not only am I the God of everywhere, I am everything. I am everything. Meaning that there's no other existence besides me. Remember, we have talked about this before, where Maimonides writes clearly that the first mitzvah in the Torah, the first commandment, Leida, is to know sheyesh sham matzri rishon, that there is a first cause, and that first cause creates everything else, and there's nothing else but this first cause. All right, so that's mitzvah number 1: to know, to meditate, to study, to learn, to grapple with this idea that God is one and there's no one else. Ein od milvado. There's nothing but him. Nothing. Now this in today's day and age is not such a big challenge, but those days, imagine if the whole world says you're crazy. Well, you're nuts or something. Even when the Jews go into the land of Canaan, we see that they're unable to hold on to this idea of exclusive monotheism. Look, if your neighbor is praying to the Baal or Ashterot or other gods, and guess what? And they're successful, and their business is growing, and you shmo, are, you daven every day, you put on tefillin, you go to Shul, you put the talis, and your business is not growing, and this guy is making hay. You start thinking to yourself, 1 second, either my God is not listening to me, or this God has a better inside track on doing business. So, people started to worship Baal, especially since paganism was much easier, right? It didn't have 613 commandments. You want to worship me, just worship me. But you don't have to go through this whole rigmarole, of 613 commandments. What could you do? What can't you do? And you think the 613 stays 613. Come on, 613 is only a beginning. That's an opening bid. The number 10 turns into 60,000 rules, to 100,000, who knows how many rules. The example is given. Anybody ever see a blacksmith at work? What does he do? He takes his anvil, he takes his thing, and he smashes the anvil on the piece of metal, on the whatever it's lead. And what happens? What do you see coming out there? Sparks all over the place. That's Judaism. You take the piece of metal, you whack it, and sparks fly all over the place, and that's how we get all these rules and regulations, customs, and decrees, and who knows what. Okay? But God wants loyalty. So number one is, I am God, your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt. We talked about it on Saturday. Why didn't he say that I created the world? I am God, I'm so powerful that I created heaven and earth. No one else could do that. That's why you should be loyal to me. Because people experienced the leaving of Egypt. Creating heaven and earth, they weren't there. They realized that, yes, he's a creator of heaven and earth. But leaving Egypt, you experienced it. And since you experienced it, I own you. I own you. You owe me the right to be loyal to me. Okay, so that's numero uno. That's number one. God is God. Okay. Number two, you should have no other gods before me, not in the heavens, not in the stars, because you know what happens is we begin to ponder and think to ourselves, where is he? Where is he? Kids ask these questions all the time. Where is God? So we say, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, right? If you go to preschool, this is a song they teach. Up, up, down, down, here, there, and all around. Me, then, that's where he can be found. But where? Here, there. But where's here, there? I went here and I went there. And he's not here and he's not there. Where is he? So you have to have faith. That's faith comes in. Now, if you have to rely on faith, becomes a problem. Because people want to see, we want to see something concrete. So what is concrete? Now let's take something that's really concrete and it's very beneficial to us. The sun. Mm-hmm. The sun has a couple of advantages over God. Why? Number one, you can see it. To some people, it makes a big difference when you talk about an invisible God. So you see the sun. The sun is also beneficial, right? Yeah, especially here in California. You go out there, the sun, it's warm and it's good and it's loving and it's caring. It helps crops grow. It gives us sunlight. It gives us this. All these things. Like, hey, every once in a while, give someone cancer. But look, you want it all good? You want it all good? So ancient people started to think, you know what? The sun must have some power because look how powerful it is. Don't have any other gods before me. Don't make that mistake by thinking, since I'm a good God and I gave you this sun that warms you and cares for you and loves you, and the sun is never critical. Have you ever heard? Unlike God in the Bible, that's every 2 minutes is critical of our actions. Don't do this, don't do that. Why'd you do that? The sun is never critical. It never stops shining. Never. It comes, it shines, it's nice, it's this, it's fine. So people began to think, the sun must be something good. Then people began to think, what about the moon? Oh, come on. The moon is all about romance, right? When you could take someone out to romance her, where are you taking her? To the sun? No, you take her to a beautiful full moon. It's all about romance. So the moon must have some special qualities to it. And what about all the beautiful stars up in heaven that are sparkling like diamonds? They must have the wind. Think about the wind and and all of these things. So people began, ancient people began to worship these things. And God says, I don't want you to have any other God, even if you believe that I am the boss, the CEO, and the sun and the moon are only the board of directors. It doesn't matter. I'm everything. No, you shall have no other God, and don't make any images in about the other. You make an image about a sun. That's why idols were fashioned out. You can make an image of a sun. You can make an image of this, and an image of that. God said, absolutely nothing. I don't want anything except me. Just think of me. But that's a challenge. But okay, but we've overcome the challenge. Then, just to add a little bit of more, urgency, God says, don't take my name in vain, which is something that we Americans do all the time. Okay, let's be honest, on the freeway. Okay, someone cuts you off, you know what you say, okay? But I don't want to say it, but we take God's name in vain. God says, do not take my name in vain. And now a whole set of rules and regulations have now appeared. And what does that exactly mean? What do you mean don't take his name in vain? What about taking an oath with God's name? Yes, that's okay, because you're not taking it in vain. But when you say it, whether to hurt somebody, to curse somebody, to mock somebody, no, absolutely not. You should not take my name in vain, and you should not make take any false oaths with my name. Okay, fine. Why? Respect. Respect. God wants you to have complete respect. That's why in the Torah, it's very interesting that has anybody ever seen how a real Torah is made? I mean, I'm not talking about this printing book. I'm talking about a scroll. Okay, so you got to take parchment, you stretch it out, you got to get a special quill, fine-tune it to the point, a special ink, you dip the quill, and each letter is made good. Now there's 308,000 letters in the Torah, give or take a few. 308,000 letters means that all of these letters have to be perfectly fashioned. Like if anyone is not made correctly, the Torah is no good. 2 of them are touching, Torah is not good. 1 of them is missing a leg, the Torah is not good. So the sofer has to be extremely, extremely careful on how he writes this. Now, what happens if he makes a mistake? The man's only human, right? People make mistakes. So, that's why you have a little knife next to you, and you kind of scratch out the letter, where if you, let's say, made a hey instead of a ches, or a ches instead of a hey, you can scratch it out, except if it's God's name. Once you make a mistake in God's name, there's nothing you can do. You have to take the whole piece of parchment and set it aside, and you can't use it. Because you cannot erase God's name. Everything else you can erase. Abraham's name, Kairach's name, Balak's name, Yisro's name, no problem. But God's name in the Torah, you cannot erase. Why? Respect. When you're going to start taking a knife to God's name and start scratching it out, you can't do that. So therefore, why are all of these things instituted? To give us an idea and a guide to how far we have to go in order to respect the Almighty. Okay? Not to use his name in vain, not to think bad thoughts about him, etc., etc., etc. Okay.
Right, why does he say a jealous God?
Because he's very jealous. Because he wants exclusivity. He does not like to have any competition. So, if he sees you worshiping another God, he's not going to sit back and say, come on, they're Americans. What do they know? They don't know anything. Dummies. No. I'm a jealous God, because just like if someone would be fancying up to your husband, you'd also be jealous, right? Okay, good answer. Okay, let her say it. Yes, you'd be very jealous if you saw someone fancying up to your husband. You'd be jealous too. So the same way God, he doesn't want any competition. He wants to have exclusivity. And if he sees that we are moving off of the path, and moving off of the path is something that we've talked about before. You don't go from nothing to idolatry in 5 seconds. This is not like Tesla. You go zoom. It goes slowly. First of all, you start to think to yourself, you have questions, you have doubts about faith, which is completely normal to have doubts. Why? Because we look around the world, and what do we see? Do we see that there's someone running this world? Do we see that there's actually order in this world? No, we see chaos. We see anger. We see war. We see hunger, death, children's children. So we think to ourselves, what's going on over here? How can this possibly be? So to have a doubt is not. It's completely natural and normal. What does God want you to do after you have that doubt? Get rid of it. Okay? He doesn't want you to dwell on it. And this is talked about a lot in, what's that thing we're supposed to be learning now? Oh, Kabbalah. Oh, yeah. So Kabbalah demands that when this thought comes into your head, this little doubt creeping down in your mind, is he, boom, it wants you to completely eradicate that thought from your head and go back to saying, no, God knows what he's doing, everything that happens is the best for us, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so the beginning, these are the first 3 commandments. Then we go into some more. Let's get some more. Sabbath. Now, go ahead. I'm just flipping from I'm on 410 right now. 410. Now, go ahead.
Rabbi, I'm struggling with a jealous God and why we use the word jealous. If a father gave a requirement to his children, you wouldn't call the father jealous.
You wouldn't call him jealous, but there's the idea that jealousy invokes this idea of exclusivity. Like, that there's something that's he's very, very, very tantamount and very, very obstinate about this idea of exclusivity. And that's what he means by jealous. God understands that if you're worshiping someone else, what are you exchanging? You're exchanging, gold for ashes. He gets that the other gods are ashes. But he's disappointed in the fact that, think about that. He says it in actually Jeremiah in chapter 2, talks about the idea that, he's admonishing the people and he's telling them, you know what? Look about the nations of the world. The nations of the world, they don't even exchange their gods, even though their gods are nothing. We're talking about paganism. Their gods are nothing. But you, look at you. You have the real thing. And what do? You dump it at the side. So I think that's the concept of jealousy, where he's not in the sense of jealous, like, you drive a Mercedes-Benz, I want a Mercedes-Benz. But he wants that idea to linger in your mind that there's absolutely no benefit to having anybody else worshipped except him. That idea. And that's where the jealousy comes in. Not that he's jealous, he's worried about the power of someone else, but he's worried that you feel that way. And you know what? And it's so true, because what we have done many times throughout our history is that we've taken the most powerful entity in the world, which is the Almighty, which we should trust and be loyal to beyond a question, and we've set him aside for what? For something else. For idolatry. Okay, now, idolatry is not only the idea of worshiping another God. Idolatry is worshiping anything that is outside the worship of God. Meaning that here in America, we don't suffer really much from idolatry. Does anybody have this tremendous desire to go to Home Depot, buy a piece of wood and carve out an idol, put it on his table and worship it? I don't. And Jews in general don't have this challenge. It used to be, but today we don't have this challenge. What is more our challenge? That we substitute worship of the Almighty for worship of something else. So what do we worship here in this country? Here we go, baby. Here. Who wants this? You see, if I pulled out a mezuzah, nobody. But if I pulled out $20, who wants this? Everybody's running to it. Because the only thing that matters here in America is dead presidents on green paper. Okay? That's all that matters here in America. Okay? Parchment with godly writings on it? Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll buy one, but I'll stick it in my bookshelf, and it'll stay there. But dead presidents, if you could get yourself a bunch of dead presidents in your pocket, that's idolatry. That's idolatry. Because what do? We've substituted the worship of the Almighty, and that's where the word jealous comes in. We've substituted the worship of God for the worship of what? Of what? A piece of paper that we can barter with, we can exchange goods with. Think about it. He sits up in heaven and he thinks to himself, you know what? They're a bunch of crazy people, because here I'm giving them all the blessings, the rain, the this, the that, the health, the that. And what are they doing? They're rejecting me, and now they're worshiping a piece of paper that is nothing. That means absolutely nothing, except that it has on it, in God we trust, to fool us. to fool us. So in God we trust, as if no. What that means is in God we trust. Everybody else pays cash. That's what the dollar bill means. Okay, that's what it is. So this is where now you may say, okay, you know what? There are people that don't worship money. You know who doesn't worship money? People with no money. But other people with money, they don't. No one ever said Geld is blotte. In Yiddish, there's an expression. You heard this expression? Geld is blotte. Money is mud. You know who says that? People with no money. People with money never say money is mud. Forget about it. Okay? But it's not saying you don't worship money. There's something else you worship. What do you worship? You worship beauty. In America we worship beauty because we try to stay thin, we try to stay beautiful. That doesn't matter. What's wrong with aging? Once upon a time, aging is a natural process. Not in America. No. If you're aging, you're going to spend money not to look your age. You'll color your hair, you'll color your nose, you'll color your eyes, you'll get transplants, implants, outplants. You'll do whatever you have to do in order. No, I'm not old. I'm not getting old. I'm looking just better. I'm looking better. That's what it is. So that's worship. You're worshiping beauty, or you worship power, or you worship this, you worship that. Everybody worships something, and that's where the word jealousy comes in, where God just can't fathom in His mind that why would you dump me when you have I'm the quarterback of the high school football team. I'm like number one, the prom king, and you dump me for some schlemiel. Come on, that's crazy. That's nuts. So here we come now to another one. Sabbath. We're going to the Sabbath, honoring your parents. That's number 5. Then you go that don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, which really means kidnapping. In this particular case, in the 10 Commandments, it's not about just stealing $5. He's talking about kidnapping here of thou shalt not steal, don't bear false witness against your neighbor, and don't covet. Don't be jealous, right? Don't be jealous, okay? Don't covet, okay? Commentators have analyzed that if you notice that came back Shnei Luchas Habris, right? There's 2 columns, right? The first 5 that we talk about are all really questions between man and God. I'm your God. Don't have any gods before me. Don't take my name in vain. Sabbath is a concept between us and God, and even honoring parents is also a godly commandment, because the Talmud tells us that how many partners are there in creating a person? 3. Who are the 3 partners? Father, the mother, and God. Because if God doesn't want you to have a baby, guess what? No matter what you're going to do, you're not going to have. So here, Father, Mother, God. So these 5 we dedicate to the service between man and God. The latter 5 are very simple rules. Don't murder. Don't murder is not an exclusive Jewish concept. Even before Judaism came around, they already had this idea of having a moral code. Hammurabi, he lived at the time of Abraham. His kingdom had this moral Hammurabi code. So don't murder, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't bear false witness, and also don't covet. Seem to be very simple. And the commentators struggled for a long time trying to figure out, Lama, why did God pick these most simple of rules to give at the time of the greatest revelation? See, the first 5 I get. I'm your God. Of course you have to have no gods. I get. Don't beg, fine. Shabbos, good. Honoring. But don't murder? Wouldn't you take that time to really give us most of the esoteric laws, like pray? Doesn't even say about prayer here. Pray to me. Okay, doesn't say it anywhere in the entire Torah. Shatnez, don't wear wool and linen together. You know why you don't wear wool and linen together? No one knows. This is like a mystery. Why can't you wear shatnez, wool and linen together in one garment? The red heifer, put that in there, because that's like what? The red heifer. Even the kosher laws would have made more sense, because the kosher laws still are super rational. You can't tell me why God chose you can eat a buffalo, but you can't eat a wolf or a fox. Why? I mean, a buffalo is so much nicer to eat. And a goat you could eat, but a horse you can't eat. I don't know and gets it. fins and scales, that makes perfect sense. But if you don't have fins and scales, you can't eat it. So a catfish, no, but a halibut, yes. Okay, so put that in. No, he puts in 5 of the most simple rules, and I'll tell you why. Because commentators thought like this. If I asked you, why should you not murder? Oh, you're going to say, why? Why aren't you a murderer? Haven't you ever thought about murdering somebody? Come on. You thought about murdering somebody, Dave. I know you. Everybody thought about murdering somebody. Right? Come on. Come on. Daily. Right? Daily. Daily. You know, I told you once, I met with this, I'm not going to mention who it was, but I met with this person, was a very big personality, and he went through a lot of struggles, and I asked him, you know, during all of your struggles, did you ever once think about committing suicide because you were in such deep trouble? He said, suicide? Never. Homicide? Every day. Every day thought about a homicide. And that's a mentality, right? Why should I kill myself? So I asked the average person, why wouldn't you kill somebody? So you would say, because I'm a nice guy. I'm a good person. I have morals and ethics. I'm a good person. Would I want to take someone else's life? But that's not the right answer. The right answer, I don't care about what kind of a person you are. The right answer why we don't murder is not because I don't want someone to murder me. The reason we don't murder somebody is because God said, thou shalt not murder. And I use the word murder specifically, not kill, because everybody uses the word kill, because kill is not right. Because you can kill somebody. Once in a while, you're allowed to kill somebody. When? When you feel like it. No. You're allowed to kill somebody. For example, if someone's about to kill you, you take self-defense, you're allowed to kill them. In a moral war, you're allowed to kill them. So murder never is allowed. Why is murder not allowed? What about adultery? Take adultery, for example. Here in America, adultery is not prohibited. I only found this out recently. I mean, that in America, why? Because here in America, that we don't care about your moral standing. And it's not our business what you do morally. You're an adult. She's an adult. Go have a good time. What do I care? Go do it. In the Torah, why is adultery prohibited? Because God said so. Because you are a thief. You have destroyed. You're a murderer. You're a murderer of a family. You're a murderer of a husband. You're a murderer of the children. You have destroyed a family, and you're a murderer. And the reason why you don't do that is because God said so. And the same thing is true about stealing. And the same thing is true about. No, he doesn't like. See, I talked about adultery, and Jay leaves. I don't get it. He had the Aliyah on Shabbat. We gave Jay the 10 Commandments Aliyah just to make sure that he keeps them. All right. See you later. Happy birthday, Jay.
He's up to number 6 now.
Yeah, I know. So why is that concept important? Why is the concept important that God said to do this? Because I'll tell you why. Because there are going to be instances where we can justify doing anything. We as human beings have the ability to justify in our minds anything that we want to do. No matter how cruel, no matter how terrible, no matter how immoral, how illegal, how criminal, we will justify doing it. I think to myself, you know what? There's a guy that's worth $400 billion and other people worth $200 billion. Do they need all this money? What does a guy do with $200 billion? It's almost like unethical for one person to have that much money. I'm going to make sure that he doesn't have this kind of money. Okay, so I'm a computer whiz. I break into Jeff Bezos' account and I take out $5 million. Is he going to miss $5 million? The guy doesn't even know what 5 million is, like a 5 million. The guy, his account swings billions wise, not millions wise. I say, you know what I could do with $5 million? I could do so much good in this city with $5 million. I could change the face of the city. I could finish my shul. I could do this. I could do that. I could do so many things. Now, would it be so bad? I did it. I'm only going to do it once. No more. Just one time. Just once, I promise. Just once. Okay, maybe. And I could convince myself, if I really try hard enough, that I didn't do anything bad. I didn't do anything bad. He's not missing it. I'm benefiting from it. So it's like charity without him knowing. Okay, he's given charity, but no one told him that he gave to the Shul by the Shore $5 million. I'm sure if he knew, he would be happy to do it. I'm sure. Okay? Now, how am I so certain that what I'm saying is real? I can tell you, I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. You know how? I want to take you back, what's it, 100 years ago, back to Germany. And 100 years ago, in the year 1925, okay, Germany was going through an upheaval, a terrible upheaval. It had lost World War I, and the Allies basically wiped them clean. I mean, like the Treaty of Versailles, but just cleared them out, and they're made to pay. What's going on in Germany now in 1925? The Weimar Republic is in play, and inflation is going through the roof. I mean, when I say inflation, we complain of 7% inflation here. They were going through 7,000% inflation. The money was, what you had for breakfast was not worth anything by the time lunch came around. It's completely upheaval. So who's living now in 1925 in Germany? Adolf Hitler. Okay, and who's Adolf Hitler? Adolf Hitler is a nobody. Literally a nobody, a corporal, in the German army during World War I, where he was injured, not killed, even though he had one of the most dangerous jobs, okay? And he survives. And Adolf Hitler in 1923 tries to pull off what we call the Munich beer push. In a bar, he tries to overthrow the Bavarian government, and he's arrested and put into prison. So now he's sitting in prison, 1925, and he's writing a little book. It's called Mein Kampf. Maybe you've read that book, and in that book he tells you what he's going to do. What he's going to do is, first of all, know one thing, that every problem in Germany is a result of one reason, the Jews. They brought this upon us. Everything. Well, wait a minute, that brought us upon us. Now think about this for a second, the logic behind this, because it's like sitting in a train in Russia in 1880. Two men are sitting. The Russian turns to the Jew and says, all the problems in Russia is because the Jews. So the Jew turns to him, you're right, it's the Jews and the bicycle riders. So the Russian says, why the bicycle riders? So the Jew says, why the Jews? Well, the Jews. But this is what Adolf Hitler does. And then, for the next 7 or 8 years, Hitler builds an organization where in the beginning of the 1930s, he's already the chancellor. And what does he do? He implements a plan of these. Now, let's think about where we are. We are in Germany, a land of what? Sophisticated people. We're not talking about 2,000 years ago, barbarians running around, Genghis Khan, who knows what, who knows what. We're talking about a sophisticated people that were educated, they were progressive, they were learned, they appreciated art, they had the greatest scientists, the greatest. And what did he do? What did he do? He got this country to follow a plan to kill. I'm not even talking about starting the war, which is a different story, to kill 6 million innocent people. And I'm not saying innocent because I happen to be a Jew and my grandparents were victims. But these were innocent. My grandfather, I promise you, I never met him, but from what my mother told me, he was no threat to Hitler's army. Zero. He was not a gunslinger. He was not Mayor Lansky. He was not a cowboy. He didn't know. He was a bicycle rider. Okay? He was a simple guy that was no threat, and they killed him. Why? Because they convinced themselves that this is just and moral and right, to take innocent people and to put them into a gas chamber. So when we read about the 10 Commandments, and I ask you why you should not murder, what do you say? God, I'm a nice person. That doesn't cut it. Because of many people that are nice people that do terrible things. And we've talked about, there's 2 types of emotions, love and hate. Okay, so love is harder because I have to wine you and dine you and buy you candies and flowers and jewelry, and then maybe you'll fall in love with me. Hate, I could do this. 3 classes, I could get you to hate broccoli. Trust me. Maybe even 2 classes. Kale takes a half a class. 20 minutes and you will be hating kale. Now, all if you did is if you took kale and gave it human properties and turned kale into a person, we would kill kale. We would literally kill it. What kind of a thing are you, kale, that you're walking around? Okay, so hatred is much easier to invoke in human beings. Do I have to prove this to you? I mean, believe me, if we took, like Hitler did, and he picked someone that's an outsider, right? He picked that Jew, you're an outsider, and made you feel outside, and then everybody around you just started to hate on you and hate on you and hate on you. That was it, the end of discussion. So that's why the Hashem had to put the most basic humanistic ideas in the Ten Commandments to make sure that you always realize that the reason that why we are doing this is because Yesh Balabayis Labirazu. There is a boss to this endeavor. There is someone out there that is watching us and looking at us and cares about how we act. And he gets very disappointed when we don't do what we have to do. That is a very powerful incentive to keep us on the... But what happens? You see, had God just created us with a good inclination, we'd have no problems. We'd be doing all the right things. Like, if you remember in high school or in elementary school, there was always this one kid in the class. He always did the right thing. He never wanted to do anything. We wanted to always do trouble. But no. The teacher left. I said, let's throw the book. Do something. Come on, the teacher's not in the room. No, he would sit there at the... I hated that guy. None of you were that, trust me. I look around the room, none of you were that kind of a student. Okay? All right? So, you were, huh? Oh, okay, I was wondering. Okay, I was wondering. So here, here you have, we have this inclination that drives us away. And that's the way God created human beings. We have these two drives within inside of us. One, the good drive, don't murder, don't commit this, don't do that. And yet on the second one, we have a drive that says, why not? Come on. Would you rather hang out with the saints or hang out with the sinners? Who are more fun? Let's be honest. Who has more fun, the saints or the sinners? There you go. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Glenn.
So I think, Rabbi, in your Talmud class, you brought up this example of the Association of German National Jews.
Yes.
And you compared it to contemporary events.
Correct.
Especially in view of all the questioning that you do as part of the discussions, right?
Correct.
It's kind of mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. I don't get it myself. When I say that there are Jews that associate and are cheering for the team that is trying to kill us, I mean, I don't have to, again, if you just go back to October 7th, and what happened after October 7th and forward on, and when you have Jews that are marching with our enemies who are applauding and appreciating and exalting these murderers that have murdered our children, our family, our things, I look at myself in astonishment. I say, how in the world could this possibly be? How? It's mind-boggling, except in the fact that, you have free choice, and God does not take away free choice. And these people, just like those Jews in Germany that were blinded, they were blinded by the fact that, Hitler will get the trains to run on time, Hitler will bring up the economy, Hitler will... Okay, he has a stupid program against anti-Semitism, but that's an exaggeration. See, that's what... Everybody thought that was an exaggeration. No one really believed that he was going to go through with anything like this. Even the great industrialists of Germany who backed him thought to themselves, you know what, we'll get him elected, but we'll control him. Little did they realize that this is a guy that you're not going to control. So it's mind-boggling to me then, and it's triply mind-boggling to me now, post-Holocaust, how you can have Jews that side with our enemies. I mean, you don't want to say anything, I get it. You don't want to be the person that comes out and makes a proclamation, this. You want to be quiet. Okay, I get it. Okay, fine. You're protecting your interests. I get it. But to march, and to stand and to support these people that are out there to kill you, and they make no bones about it. They don't make bones. Here in Cal State Long Beach, 2 days after October 7th, they had flyers with the gliders. The gliders? The gliders that came in that killed little innocent children, burned them alive, and this is what they were glorifying. And you had Jews that were protecting them. You had Jews that were Supporting them, thank you.
But I fail to concede, this is not just an enemy that wants to say, we don't like the state, the nation of Israel, we don't want it to exist, we want it to disappear from the nations of the earth. They don't want the people to exist.
Of course.
And this is what I mean.
Of course.
It's like, it's so staggering.
No, it's amazing. But this is
Jews.
Yeah, these are Jews. This is our history. This is our history. And again, this all boils down to the idea that God created us with free will. It has to be that you cannot be compelled to do this. You have to have free will in order for you to be able to make a stand and to make a conscious decision that this is what I'm going to do. Otherwise, the entire episode, the entire exercise is nullified. It means nothing. If God takes away our free will and then we follow the rules, yeah, but that's like an angel. And God was not happy with just creating angels. He could have stopped at angels. He created angels. And then he said, you know what? I'm okay. I have a bunch of guys that every day just run around and praise me and bless me and sing to me and, and Kaddish, you're so holy, you're so great. Okay, fine. But he didn't. He went all the way down the steps of what we call Seder Ishtalshlus, a descending platform down to this world, creates people and creates the people with the ability to deny their creator. Think about that. Think about this for a second. We have the ability, and not only we have the ability, but we actually use it, that there is people that deny that there is a creator to this world. And man, it's mind-boggling, but yet that's all part of what the purpose of this world is that you and me and we as a collective shall rise up, take this evil inclination or egotistical drive, whatever you want to call it, and subdue it. And we can, because you see, on the other hand, when I talk about people who are marching with our enemy, we see that when religion is at its best, now religion could be at its worst, and believe me, I don't want to get into that because that will take us about 4 hours to tell you how when religion is at its worst, it's at its worst. But when religion is at its best, we have the most altruistic people that do the most caring, loving job in the worst kind of circumstances. They'll go to the furthest ends of the earth and deal with the most sick people and the people that no one looks at, and they'll care for them and they'll build for them and they'll feed them and they'll heal them. And this is all because they feel that this is a calling from above. Not because I'm a nice person. Because God asks me that He knows that I'm responsible for my fellow human being. I'm going to go out there. I'm not going to sit comfortably in St. Louis or Houston or Buffalo. Okay, if you could sit comfortably in Buffalo, I'm not so sure. It's cold. But wherever it is, I want to go out there and help. That's what God is looking for. Those kind of people that set aside their ego and go out there. And you don't have to go to the furthest place. Here in Long Beach, you have people that worry about the homeless, people that worry about the children and this. One of the saddest days of my life is when one of the people in our community, their child was diagnosed with leukemia, and we had to walk from the hospital. If you go to Miller's Children, you have to walk from Miller's Children Hospital to the big hospital because that's where you come into that ward where you have children that are suffering, the pediatric oncology ward. It's like, and yet there are doctors, there are nurses, volunteers that are there on a daily basis. I think I mentioned to you the story where the mother and the father, they were broken. I mean, your kid is in an oncology ward. It's not a splinter. It's not a cough due to cold. This is serious matter. Child with cancer. And one grandmother of a patient came to her and she hugged her and she said to her, in this ward, we don't look at color, we don't look at creed, we don't look at religion, we don't look at anything. We are all one family in this ward. We all care for each other. We all want to pull together for our children and our grandchildren. That is not a human being, by the way, that showed up. That lady that came, that hugged my friend, was not a human being. That was an angel sent by God. An angel. She just appeared. And even though she had a grandson in the room, I don't care. She was an angel that came at the very moment that this lady needed a hug and need reassurance that, you know what, you're not alone in this struggle. Thank God he's okay, he's well, graduating from high school, going on to college. Thank God it's a good ending. But, so when we talk about people, on one side, I don't want to be dismissive and say everybody, because you see millions of people are on the other side. Millions of people. You go to Yad Vashem in Israel, and before you get up there, what do you have? The street, the row of the righteous Gentile. That there were people in Europe that were willing to hide Jews, knowing full well that the fine won't be, the IRS is going to come after you and garnish your wages. They were going to shoot you and your family on the spot. The Gestapo don't take you away. Well, why would they have to take you away? They'll shoot you right there and then, death. And people did that. People did that. They hid them. They cared for them. They fed them. Not enough, unfortunately, but at least there were those that overcame their egotistical, selfish things and did something. So here, it all ties back to the Torah. It all ties back to the Ten Commandments. If we have true faith that this is real, that God came down and gave the commandments to the people and wants us to really have faith in Him and are loyal to Him and care for Him, then we will act completely differently. Then we will act as if everybody in the room, every single human being that's created is a spark of the Almighty. And we respect every single person in your room. Not to take away if someone's going to come to kill you, you shouldn't defend yourself. Of course you should. But that's what the Torah was trying to imbue in these people. That He was trying to create a nation that would be literally a light unto the world. That people would look at these people and they would say to themselves, look at this. Look how they get along. They're different people from different families and different tribes, but they love each other, they care for each other, they worry about each other, they support each other in sickness and in health, in goodness and in darkness, whatever it is. Look at that. Look. Let's learn from them. Why are they like this? Why are the Jews able to do this? Because they worship the Almighty and they have faith in the Almighty and they know that even when things go south, it's only temporary. We'll be back. Nothing stays forever. The world is like a ball. And that's what God wanted to imbue in us. And that's why He kept saying over again, remember, I am your God. I care for you. I am your God. Don't have 52 times. There's 52 times that there's a declaration against idolatry. 52 times. I mean, how many times how many here have raised teenagers? Have you ever heard they're excited? I know, right? Put on your sweater, finish your food, do your homework. And what's the response? Yeah, why do you keep telling me this? Why do you keep telling me this? I know already. No, isn't that the... I did it. My children did it. Their children will do it to them, thank God. Their children will do it to them, thank God. As I've told you, I used to, once upon a time, years ago, I had a goal and a dream. My goal and dream was to build a big shul and to be like what's his name on television? That guy from Houston, like the guy. What? Joel Osteen. I want 25,000 people should come. I should get out there and they should worship me. That's what I wanted. I wanted people to say, "Oh, look at that guy." Okay. Now, no, not now. I have one goal. I've zeroed it in to one goal and one goal only. What's that? I want to live long enough to take revenge on my kids. That's it. That's what it comes down to. I want to do to them what they did to me. That's it. So now, thank God, I've reached one level because I married them all off. So now I go to their homes. I take my socks off. I leave it in the kitchen. I take a fudge bar. I go lay down in Goldie's or Chaylei's bed. I eat it. I crumple all over the things. When their kids come over, I give them candy and lollipops, marshmallows, not a healthy thing in sight. Okay, they did it to me. Now it's my turn to do it to you. Okay, but that's the nature of the nature of human beings. Not to take revenge on your kids, God forbid, and not to do that. But that's what the Torah wanted us to do. It gave us free choice. It's up to you. I'm gonna encourage you. I will be with you. I will do everything I can to help you. But there's one thing I'm not going to do, says God. I'm not going to make the decision. That's up to you. You are going to make that decision. I'll lead you to the water, but you're going to have to drink. You're going to have to drink that water. And that's what Hashem wanted all along. Next week, what we talk about is we're going to go more into the details of some of the laws that God gave to us and try to understand why and what and where in the context of history, how it looked back then, and what it means to us today here in the United States of America. But what will give everybody a chance to at least absorb what we mentioned today and at least keep the majority of the 10 Commandments. I'm not asking all, but at least the majority. Six or seven, depending. All right? Without further ado, thank you very much. Until next week.
Rabbi.